In today's video, I'm going to talk about the number one thing that holds people back from becoming an effective and more efficient fly caster. Chris Meyer's Orlando Fly Casting Lessons. I give one-on-one fly casting instruction here in the Central Florida area. If you're not going to be in Central Florida, I can also analyze and improve your cast via video instruction. In today's video, we're going to talk about the number one thing that keeps people from getting the distance they want and the accuracy and tight loops you're looking for. And that is slack line in your cast. Whether it's going backward, forward, it doesn't matter. We need to eliminate slack in both directions. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when we have slack and how we can get rid of that slack. So we're going to move over to the casting pond and dive into the details on how to improve your cast. Most beginner fly casters use far too much wrist and not enough arm in their casting, causing the rod to go around in a big curve or even a half circle. So if I don't move my hand enough and I use all wrist, you will see that the cast goes directly down behind me, and the tip, as it goes back and forth, is drawing a big curve. What we want it to do is go back and forth in a straight line. And it doesn't matter if that straight line is up here, it could be out here, it could be completely sidearm straight line, sometimes could be tipped up, it could be level, it could be high in the back, low in the front. As long as it's a straight line, we're going to be able to create that loop. But if we continue moving this rod tip in a curve, not only does it create wide open loops, it causes the hook to go down in the back. It can grab whatever's behind you. If there's water back there, the water's grabbing a hold of that line. So we do not want our line going down in the back. So as mentioned, the number one mistake made by beginners is moving the rod in a curve or circular motion instead of moving it back and forth in a straight line. And every person that I've had experience with, hand them a fly rod with no further instruction, they will all move the rod back and forth using 100% wrist. You'll see my forearm, my elbow, my shoulder, none of that's moving. The only thing moving this rod is wrist, and the angle is changing all throughout the stroke, making a half circle, a rainbow, a windshield wiper, whatever you'd like to call it. It is anything but a straight line. And if we watch what happens to our fly line when we do that, it goes down in the back, down in the front, down in the back, way up over the top, down in the front, down in the back, way up over the top, and then it lands in a pile, because that is exactly where we're telling it to go. We told it to go down. We told it go way up, over, around, and back down again. So it only goes where we tell it to go with the rod tip. The solution is to move this rod in a straight line. And preferably, in most circumstances, if we move our rod slightly higher in the back, slightly lower in the front, that straight line will give us a nice, narrow, tight loop, and it will direct that line out away from us instead of down into the ground or water behind us and down in front of us. So it's easier said than done, especially if you've been using way too much wrist for far too long. But before I begin that straight line path, there has to be a pickup motion as I'm picking the line off the water, because our cast is made from two spots. Here would be the end of my forward cast, somewhere in here. Here would be the end of my back cast, somewhere about in here. So I'm coming slightly down as I come forward. I'm coming slightly up as I go back. Always ask yourself, am I moving the tip of this rod in a straight line? And if you can't turn around and see it going back and forth straight, you can set up your camera, watch yourself on video, follow the path of your rod. So if you watch, my cast is going to have an initial lifting stage, and this all has to be one smooth motion. I can't lift it up and then stop, because the line's going to sink right back down in the water. So once I decide to go, I have to commit, and it's going to go all the way. I lift, 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 straight pause, back down. Again, we're going to lift, straight pause, back down. So you'll notice the path of my tip is a straight line, and that cast is made along that straight line. I'm pulling line here, pull, stop, pull, follow through. So we have a lift, we have a follow through at the end, but the cast itself is made along that straight line. So you need to find out if your cast is following a straight line path, and if it's not working for you, there's a very good chance that it's not. And if we don't have that straight line, not only does it create the open loops like I've already shown, it creates an additional enemy for the fly caster, and that is slack line. Because this all works very good if we have a nice tight line when we begin. I can make a nice cast, it gets straight, it's tight. But if I had a big pile of slack here in front of me, and now I try that same cast, it was the same lift, the same flip at the end, but I'm wasting all this stroke all the way up to here just to get my line tight. And if we don't have our line tight, we're not pulling line, we're not bending our rod, and we're not going to be able to make an efficient cast. So when we make these big round casts, you'll notice the line never really gets straight before I have to start moving it the opposite direction. The line still has a lot of curve in it, and I'm having to pull that curve out, wasting my stroke until I get to the end, and then I don't have enough stroke left. So essentially we're only making half, a quarter, a third, a very small portion of an efficient cast. Our rod is moving 100%, but the efficiency rating of that is well below that if we're having to pull slack out of that cast. So take a look at your cast, see if you're using far too much wrist, and if your rod is traveling in a curve. If those two things are happening, you'll easily be able to fix and improve your cast by straightening out the path of the tip. Now that you know slack is the #1 most important thing we need to eliminate, here is my playlist with the top things that people do that cause these issues leading to slack. So check them out in this playlist right here.